Hi, my name's Bridget and I'm a clinical social worker in palliative care. Really happy to be here with you today to answer some questions about caregiving.
Awesome. We're excited to have you, Bridget. Okay, first question that we received is, do you know of any serious actions being taken to facilitate the paid aspect of informal caregiving?
Yeah, so I know of lots of little things that are happening, and often these sorts of policy initiatives happen on a state by state basis. And so I like to go to Caring Across Generations, which is caringacross.org, to find out sort of what major policy initiatives are happening and also how to get involved. So that would be sort of my first step into the world of understanding like what's happening policy wise with caregiving.
Awesome, great. And we'll put that link up in the notes. The next question is, how does FMLA work? What should I do to start that process?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the Family Medical Leave Act grants 12 weeks of protected time for a person dealing with illness or dealing with caregiving issues related to a loved one's illness. And it's unpaid job protection with benefits. And the benefits piece is a big deal because job protection without benefits can be very, very, very expensive if you're suddenly paying for all of your health insurance. Unfortunately, it is not paid, so that's a bummer about FMLA, but it gives you job protection when you need to be absent from work, either in a consecutive way or intermittent way. So that means you need to take 6 weeks off to care for someone who's just had a major surgery. That would be continuous, or you need to have the flexibility to have afternoons off on a regular basis to accompany someone to doctor's appointments. That would be intermittent. The first place to start with FMLA is to contact your HR department. They are who help you navigate that process in your organization. FMLA is only applicable to organizations with more than 50 people. And so that's just an important context if you work for a super small organization.
Great, thank you. Okay, next question is, what's something I can ask for at work? I'm worried that just asking will affect how my boss treats me, and I believe this is in relationship to possibly being a patient and needing time off.
Yeah, so I appreciate this question and just how tender and also vulnerable it is to think about how you disclose your needs to your boss, who your relationship may be great, it may be neutral, it may be challenging, but this is a person that has some power in your life. And I think it's probably best to think about, instead of what can I ask for, and I'm just going to make sure I have a few notes. I'm going to make sure I have the language right. So instead of what can I ask for, what is it that you feel like you need? These conversations are often a bit easier to approach if you're really grounded in what it is you need. Do you need to be able to work from home more in non-COVID times because you need different access to facilities in your house, or because you need to rest? Do you need some sort of intermittent leave for appointments? Do you need a later start time, right? Concrete asks are easier things to negotiate. And the culture of workplaces is so varied. It's hard to give a sort of blanket direction as to what kinds of things are good to ask for. I also think it's just probably good to pause and think about, how safe do you feel in your relationship with your boss? What do you need to disclose to them in order to continue to work and manage what's happening in your life? And or in a different situation, what do you want to disclose to them because they are an important person in your life and it's important for them to know the context of what's happening for you? So it's really relationship specific. I think in situations where you have a tenuous relationship with your boss and you have a lot of needs related to your illness or the illness of someone that you care for, it's really hard to speak generally. And that's an instance where I feel like talking through specifics would be most helpful, just because there's vulnerability and disclosure.
Absolutely. Right, the next question is in the same vein, but for caregivers, and it's, do you have any suggestions for how to bring up my caregiver issues with my boss?
Yeah, so really kind of like similar principles, which, you know, are there specific things that you need, specific accommodations that you need in order to make your personal and professional life and the ways in which those are not separate at all manageable? And again, it really depends on like, what is your relationship with your boss? Is your relationship with your boss one where you share what's happening in your personal life and you're up to date on what's happening with your spouses and your pets and your vacations? Or is this totally new terrain and territory? If it's totally new terrain and territory and you don't have a particularly close or safe relationship with your boss, it might be a good first step to sort of explore this with an HR representative if your organization is big enough to have one of those. They can often be sort of neutral parties and also highlight what your rights are. And that might be some good information gathering before you start a conversation that could be emotionally sensitive with someone that you're not particularly close with.
Yeah, absolutely. And this final one, this is related to something that BJ and I find ourselves saying a lot at Mettle Health, which is social workers are great for help with everything. And how do you find a social worker?
Yeah, it's a good and big and sometimes hard question. So social workers are great, and social workers do a lot of different things. It's a very sort of generalist term in a lot of ways. I think it depends on what kind of help you're looking for. So if you're looking for a social worker to help with psychotherapy or counseling, I think that Psychology Today is actually a great resource for looking for therapists, and you can look by degree, and LCSW is the credential for a social worker to be providing psychotherapy. If you are in contact with a health system, social workers live in lots of different places. So there could be a social worker tied to your specific diagnosis, in which case I would ask your physician or a nurse practitioner or PA if there's social work support as a part of their practice. If you're inside the hospital, there are lots of social workers around. You can ask your nurse, ask the attending physician helping to take care of you, say that you'd like to speak to a social worker because you have practical or concrete concerns around how to manage things at home, because you want to talk about what's happening and sort of try to make sense of some of the decisions that are looming. Lots of social workers in general available to you if you're inside of the hospital. And then, you know, we're here. So if you can't find a social worker or you haven't found a social worker that you connect with through your health system, through Psychology Today or other sort of therapeutic resources local to you, then, you know, come and spend some time with us. We'd love to chat with you more.
Okay, great. That was super helpful. Thank you so much, Bridget. Appreciate it.
Yeah, nice to be with you.